How often do we unknowingly fall prey to manipulation in our daily lives? Whether it's a subtle comment from a coworker, a persuasive ad, or even a well-meaning friend's advice, manipulation can seep into our lives without us even realizing it. But what if there was a way to see through these tactics and reclaim your clarity and control? Enter Stoicism, a philosophy that's not just about enduring hardship, but also about cultivating the self-awareness to navigate life's complexities with wisdom. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Today, we'll explore how Stoic principles can help you recognize manipulation, understand its roots, and resist it with confidence. By the end of this video, you'll have practical tools to see the world more clearly and protect your peace of mind. Let's dive in. Stoicism begins with understanding where our power lies. At its core, this ancient philosophy teaches us to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot. This principle, often called the Dichotomy of Control, is like a mental filter. It helps us see the world more clearly by separating what truly matters from what doesn't. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential teachers, put it simply, "Some things are within our power while others are not. Our thoughts, actions, and responses. Those are ours to command, but the opinions of others, their actions, or even the outcomes of our efforts, those lie outside our control." This distinction is especially powerful when it comes to recognizing manipulation. Manipulators often try to influence us by playing on our emotions, our insecurities, or our desire for approval. But when we view their tactics through the Stoic lens, we see them for what they are: external forces, not truths we must accept. For example, imagine a coworker who tries to guilt you into taking on extra work by saying, "If you don't do this, the whole team will suffer." That's manipulation. But with the Stoic mindset, you can step back and ask yourself, is this request within my control? Is it my responsibility to fix everything? Or am I being pressured into something that doesn't align with my values or priorities? By focusing on what's truly within your power, your decision, your boundaries, your response, you reclaim your agency. You're no longer swept up in someone else's agenda. Instead, you act from a place of clarity and intention. Think about a recent situation where you felt pressured by external influences. Maybe it was a friend's passive-aggressive comment or a family member's emotional plea. How did it make you feel? And more importantly, how might the Stoic approach have helped you see it differently? Recognizing manipulation isn't about blaming others. It's about understanding your own power and choosing how to respond. That's where true freedom lies. Emotions can cloud our judgment. Stoicism teaches us to step back. When we're caught up in the heat of the moment, it's easy to lose sight of what's really happening. That's where emotional detachment comes in, but don't mistake this for cold indifference. Stoic detachment isn't about shutting off your feelings. It's about observing them without letting them dictate your actions. The Stoics believed that emotions are like impressions. They're not facts, but interpretations of the world around us. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest thinkers, put it this way, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." In other words, our emotions can amplify situations, making them seem far worse than they actually are. This perspective is incredibly useful when it comes to recognizing manipulation. Manipulators thrive on emotional reactions. They want you to feel guilty, anxious, or obligated so you'll act in their favor. But when you practice emotional detachment, you create a mental buffer. You can observe their tactics without getting swept up in the drama. Take social media, for example. How often do you scroll through your feed and feel a sudden pang of envy or frustration? Maybe it's a post flaunting someone's perfect vacation or a headline designed to provoke outrage. These platforms are built to manipulate your emotions, keeping you engaged by triggering strong reactions. But with Stoic detachment, you can pause and ask yourself, is this post a reflection of reality or just a carefully curated highlight reel? Am I reacting to the content or to the emotions it's designed to stir? By stepping back, you gain clarity. You see the manipulation for what it is, an attempt to influence your feelings and behavior, and once you see it, you can choose how to respond. Maybe you decide to limit your time on social media, or perhaps you simply remind yourself that what you're seeing isn't the whole picture. Either way, you're no longer a passive recipient of emotional manipulation. You're an active participant in your own mental well-being. Think about a time when your emotions were exploited. Maybe it was a heated argument where someone used your anger against you, or a situation where guilt made you say yes when you wanted to say no. How might emotional detachment have changed your response? The goal isn't to eliminate emotions, it's to understand them, so they don't control you. That's the power of Stoicism. It gives you the tools to see clearly, even when the world tries to cloud your vision. Manipulation thrives in distraction. Stoicism teaches us to stay present. In a world filled with constant noise, notifications, and demands for our attention, it's easy to lose sight of what's happening right in front of us. But Stoicism reminds us that true awareness begins with being fully present in the moment. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice." This focus on the present isn't just about productivity, it's a shield against manipulation. When we're distracted, we're more vulnerable to external influences. Manipulators know this. They often create a sense of urgency or chaos to pull us out of the present moment, making us act impulsively. Think about a salesperson who pressures you with a limited time offer, or a colleague who insists you make a decision immediately. These tactics are designed to bypass your rational thinking and push you into a reactive state. But when you're grounded in the present, you can see these ploys for what they are: attempts to control your behavior. Mindfulness, a cornerstone of Stoic practice, helps us cultivate this presence. It's not about emptying your mind or achieving some mystical state. It's about paying attention to what's happening right now without judgment. When you're mindful, you notice the subtle cues of manipulation, the tone of someone's voice, the way they frame their request, or the emotions they're trying to provoke. You become an observer, not a participant in their game. Consider this scenario: you're at work, and your boss suddenly drops a last-minute task on your desk saying, "This needs to be done by the end of the day or the whole project will fall apart." The urgency feels overwhelming and you're tempted to drop everything and comply. But if you pause and bring yourself back to the present, you might notice that the urgency isn't as real as it seems. Is the task truly critical, or is it being exaggerated to pressure you? By staying present, you can assess the situation calmly and decide how to respond, rather than reacting out of fear or obligation. How often do you find yourself acting impulsively under pressure? Maybe it's saying yes to something you later regret, or making a decision you didn't fully think through. These moments are often fueled by distraction, by being pulled out of the present and into someone else's agenda. But when you practice presence, you reclaim your ability to think clearly and act intentionally. You're no longer a pawn in someone else's game. You're the player, making moves with purpose and awareness. Stoicism doesn't just teach us to endure life's challenges, it equips us to navigate them with clarity and strength. By staying present, we not only recognize manipulation, but also build a foundation of inner peace that no external force can shake. The next time you feel pressured or rushed, take a breath, ground yourself in the moment, and ask, what's really happening here? The answer might just set you free. Stoicism encourages us to look beyond surface-level interactions. It's not just about what someone says or does, it's about understanding the why behind their actions. The Stoics believed that true wisdom lies in seeing the world as it is, not as it appears. Epictetus once said, "What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about these things." In other words, it's not the action that matters most, but the intention driving it. By questioning motives, we can avoid being misled and make decisions rooted in clarity rather than assumption. Let's break this down. Imagine you're at a car dealership and the salesperson is showering you with compliments. "You've got such great taste," they say, or "You're clearly someone who knows quality when you see it." On the surface, it feels good to hear these things, but if you pause and ask yourself, why are they saying this, you might realize the flattery isn't about you, it's about steering you toward a purchase. The Stoic approach would be to see through the praise and focus on the facts. Is this car truly the best choice for me? Does it align with my needs and values? By questioning the intention behind the flattery, you take back control of the situation. This principle applies to all areas of life. Think about a time when someone's words didn't quite match their actions. Maybe a friend promised to help you move but cancelled at the last minute, or a colleague offered to collaborate on a project but seemed more interested in taking credit. In these moments, Stoicism teaches us to look deeper. What's the underlying motive? Is this person acting out of genuine care, or are they pursuing their own agenda? Reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever questioned someone's true intentions? Perhaps you sensed that a compliment wasn't entirely sincere, or a favor came with strings attached. How did it feel to recognize that disconnect? And more importantly, how did it change the way you responded? Stoicism doesn't ask us to become cynical or distrustful. It simply invites us to see the world with clear eyes. By questioning intentions, we protect ourselves from manipulation while also fostering deeper, more authentic connections. After all, when you understand the why behind someone's actions, you're better equipped to navigate the relationship with wisdom and integrity. So the next time you find yourself in a situation where something feels off, take a moment to pause and ask, what's really going on here? What's driving this person's behavior? The answers might just reveal more than you expected and give you the clarity you need to move forward with confidence. To recognize manipulation, we must first understand ourselves. This is where self-awareness becomes our greatest ally. Stoicism teaches us that self-examination isn't just a tool for personal growth, it's a shield against external influences that seek to control us. Seneca, the Roman Stoic philosopher, once said, "Know thyself, for once we know ourselves, we may learn how to care for ourselves." This idea is at the heart of Stoic practice. By understanding our own thoughts, emotions, and vulnerabilities, we can spot when someone is trying to exploit them. Let's take a closer look at how this works. Imagine you're in a conversation with someone who keeps bringing up your past mistakes. They might say things like, "You always do this," or "Remember when you failed at that." If you're not self-aware, these comments can trigger feelings of guilt or self-doubt, making you more likely to comply with their demands. But if you've taken the time to reflect on your own patterns and insecurities, you'll recognize this tactic for what it is, an attempt to manipulate you by playing on your weaknesses. Self-awareness allows you to pause and ask yourself, why does this comment bother me? Is it because it touches on a fear or insecurity I haven't fully addressed? By identifying these triggers, you can respond with clarity rather than reacting out of emotion. You might even choose to set a boundary, saying something like, "I've learned from my past and I'm focused on moving forward." This kind of response not only diffuses the manipulation but also reinforces your own sense of self-worth. Think about your own life for a moment. Are there areas where you feel particularly vulnerable? Maybe it's a fear of rejection, a need for approval, or a tendency to doubt your decisions. These are the places where manipulation often takes root. By becoming more aware of these vulnerabilities, you can protect yourself from those who might try to exploit them. Stoicism doesn't just teach us to endure life's challenges, it gives us the tools to see ourselves clearly so we can navigate the world with confidence. When you know your own strengths and weaknesses, you're less likely to be swayed by external pressures. You become the author of your own story rather than a character in someone else's. So take a moment to reflect. What are the areas in your life where you feel most susceptible to manipulation? How might self-awareness help you reclaim your power in those moments? The more you understand yourself, the harder it becomes for others to pull your strings, and that's where true freedom begins. Flattery feels good, but Stoicism warns us to see through it. At first glance, praise can seem harmless, even uplifting. Who doesn't enjoy being told they're talented, smart, or indispensable? But the Stoics remind us that flattery, like criticism, is an external judgment, not a reflection of our true worth. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." In other words, flattery can be a double-edged sword. It strokes our ego, but it also has the power to cloud our judgment and steer us toward decisions that serve someone else's agenda. Stoicism teaches us to view praise and criticism with equal detachment. Both are indifferent, they don't define us or determine our value. This doesn't mean we should dismiss compliments entirely, but rather that we should examine them with the same clarity we'd use to assess criticism. Why is this person praising me? What are they hoping to gain? By asking these questions, we can see flattery for what it often is, a tool of manipulation. Consider this scenario. You're at a networking event and someone approaches you with glowing compliments about your work. "You're such a visionary," they say. "I've never met anyone with your level of insight. It feels great to hear," but then they follow up with a request. "I'd love to collaborate with you on this project. It's a perfect fit for your skills." Suddenly, the flattery starts to feel less genuine and more strategic. Are they truly impressed by your abilities, or are they trying to win you over to advance their own goals? This is where Stoic wisdom comes into play. Instead of basking in the praise, you can step back and assess the situation objectively. Does this opportunity align with your values and priorities? Or are you being swayed by the allure of someone's admiration? By focusing on what's within your control, your decisions, your boundaries, you can avoid falling into the trap of flattery. Think about a time when someone's praise influenced your choices. Maybe it was a boss who complimented your work ethic to convince you to take on extra hours, or a friend who showered you with admiration before asking for a favor. How did it feel in the moment? And looking back, do you think the flattery played a role in your decision? Stoicism doesn't ask us to become cynical or distrustful. It simply encourages us to see the world as it is, not as it appears. By recognizing flattery for what it often is, a tool of manipulation, we can navigate relationships and decisions with greater clarity and confidence. The next time someone showers you with praise, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what's really behind these words? The answer might just help you see the situation in a whole new light. Fear is a powerful tool for manipulation. Stoicism teaches us to face it. Throughout history, fear has been used to control, influence, and coerce. Whether it's a politician warning of impending doom, a news headline designed to provoke anxiety, or even a friend using scare tactics to sway your opinion, fear has a way of bypassing our rational minds and triggering impulsive reactions. But Stoicism offers a different approach. Instead of letting fear dictate our actions, it encourages us to examine it, understand it, and ultimately rise above it. The Stoics saw fear as an irrational impression, a distorted interpretation of reality. Epictetus, one of the most practical Stoic teachers, put it this way: "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In other words, fear isn't the event itself, it's our judgment of that event. When we label something as dangerous or threatening, we give it power over us. But Stoicism teaches us to question those judgments. Is this fear based on facts, or is it an exaggerated reaction to an uncertain outcome? Take fear-mongering in the media, for example. How often do we see headlines designed to provoke panic? Economic collapse imminent. New virus strain could be deadly. These stories prey on our instinctive fear of the unknown, pushing us to act out of anxiety rather than reason. But the Stoic approach would be to pause and ask, is this information accurate? Is the threat as severe as it's being portrayed? By separating fact from fear, we can respond with clarity rather than reactivity. This principle applies to personal relationships as well. Imagine a partner who says, "If you don't do this, I'll leave you." That's fear-based manipulation. It's an attempt to control your behavior by exploiting your fear of loss. But with Stoic wisdom, you can step back and assess the situation. Is this demand reasonable? Does it align with your values? By focusing on what's within your control, your actions, your boundaries, you can resist the pull of fear and make decisions rooted in integrity. Think about your own life for a moment. Are there areas where fear influences your choices? Maybe it's a fear of failure that keeps you from pursuing a dream, or a fear of rejection that makes you hesitate to speak your mind. How might the Stoic approach help you face those fears with courage and clarity? Stoicism doesn't promise a life free of fear, it gives us the tools to confront it. By recognizing fear as an impression, not a fact, we can reclaim our power and act from a place of wisdom rather than panic. The next time you feel fear creeping in, take a deep breath, examine its roots and ask yourself, is this fear real, or is it a story I'm telling myself? The answer might just set you free. Stoicism teaches us to rely on ourselves, not others. This principle of self-sufficiency is more than just a call for independence, it's a shield against manipulation. When we depend too heavily on external validation, approval, or support, we give others the power to influence our decisions and emotions. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." While this might seem unrelated at first, it speaks to the importance of self-control and inner strength. When we delay our reactions, we give ourselves the space to think clearly and act from a place of self-reliance, rather than being swayed by external pressures. Dependency in any form creates vulnerability. Imagine a relationship where one person constantly seeks reassurance from their partner. Do you still love me? Am I good enough? These questions, while natural, can become a tool for manipulation if the other person realizes how much power they hold over your emotions. They might use this dependency to control your actions, making you feel guilty or insecure to get what they want. The Stoic approach would be to cultivate inner confidence, so you no longer need constant validation from others. This doesn't mean shutting people out, it means building a foundation of self-worth that no one can shake. Think about your own life. Are there areas where you rely too much on others for your sense of worth or direction? Maybe it's a job where you constantly seek your boss's approval, or a friendship where you feel you need to earn someone's affection. How might this dependency be shaping your choices? And more importantly, how might it be leaving you open to manipulation? Stoicism doesn't ask us to go through life alone. It simply reminds us that our strength and stability must come from within. By developing self-reliance, we reduce the power others have over us. We become less reactive, less easily swayed, and more capable of making decisions that align with our values. Consider this: what would it feel like to stand firmly in your own worth without needing someone else's approval to validate it? How might that shift change the way you navigate relationships, work, or even your own inner dialogue? The Stoics believed that true freedom comes from within, and by embracing self-reliance, we take the first step toward reclaiming that freedom. So the next time you find yourself seeking validation or leaning too heavily on someone else, pause and ask, am I giving away my power, and what would it look like to take it back? The answers might just lead you to a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. Saying no is a Stoic act of self-preservation. It's not about being selfish or dismissive, it's about honoring your values and protecting your peace of mind. The Stoics believed that integrity is one of the highest virtues, and that means staying true to yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This simple yet profound advice reminds us that our actions should align with our principles, not the expectations of others. Think about a time when you felt pressured to say yes to something you didn't want to do. Maybe it was a social event you had no interest in attending, or a project at work that stretched you too thin. In those moments, saying no can feel like a betrayal, like you're letting someone down or risking their approval. But Stoicism teaches us that true strength lies in setting boundaries. When you say no to something that doesn't align with your values or priorities, you're saying yes to your own well-being. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine a friend asks you to help them move on a weekend when you've already planned to recharge and spend time with your family. They might say, "I really need your help, I can't do this without you." It's tempting to say yes, especially if you're worried about disappointing them. But Stoicism would encourage you to pause and ask yourself, does this request align with my priorities? Am I sacrificing my own needs to please someone else? By saying no, you're not rejecting your friend, you're affirming your own boundaries and respecting your time. This doesn't mean you should never help others. Stoicism isn't about isolation or indifference, it's about balance. The key is to make decisions from a place of clarity, not obligation. When you say no with intention, you create space for the things that truly matter to you. Reflect on your own life for a moment. Are there areas where you struggle to say no? Maybe it's at work, where you take on more than you can handle to avoid conflict, or in your personal life, where you say yes to avoid disappointing others. How might setting clearer boundaries change the way you feel about those situations? Stoicism doesn't just teach us to endure life's challenges, it gives us the tools to navigate them with integrity and self-respect. By mastering the art of saying no, you reclaim your power and live a life that's true to who you are. So the next time you're faced with a request that doesn't align with your values, remember, saying no isn't a rejection, it's an affirmation of your own worth. Stoicism teaches us to let reason guide our decisions. At its heart, this philosophy is about cultivating a mindset that prioritizes logic over impulse, clarity over confusion. The Stoics believed that reason is our greatest tool, a kind of inner compass that helps us navigate life's challenges with wisdom and integrity. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most practical thinkers, put it this way: it is not things that disturb people, but their judgments about things. In other words, it's not the situation itself that causes us distress, but how we interpret it. By using reason to evaluate our judgments, we can see through manipulation and make decisions rooted in truth, not emotion. Let's break this down. Imagine you're in a heated argument with a colleague. They're raising their voice, making accusations, and trying to provoke you into reacting. In the moment, it's easy to get swept up in the emotion, anger, defensiveness, even fear. But Stoicism reminds us to pause and ask, what's really happening here? Is this person's behavior a reflection of the truth, or are they trying to manipulate me into reacting in a certain way? By stepping back and applying reason, you can see the situation for what it is, a tactic, not a truth. This approach isn't just about avoiding conflict, it's about reclaiming your power. When you let reason guide your decisions, you're no longer at the mercy of someone else's agenda. You can respond with clarity and intention rather than reacting out of emotion. For example, instead of lashing out in anger, you might calmly say, "I hear your concerns, but let's discuss this when we're both in a better place to have a productive conversation." This kind of response not only diffuses the situation but also shows that you're in control of your own actions. Think about a time when emotions clouded your judgment. Maybe it was a moment of frustration that led to a hasty decision, or a wave of anxiety that made you doubt yourself. How might reason have helped you see the situation more clearly? And how could that clarity have changed the outcome? Stoicism doesn't ask us to suppress our emotions, it invites us to examine them. By using reason to evaluate our feelings, we can separate what's real from what's imagined, what's within our control from what's not. This isn't just a philosophical exercise, it's a practical tool for navigating the complexities of life. So the next time you find yourself in a situation where emotions are running high, take a moment to pause and ask, what's the rational response here? By letting reason guide your decisions, you'll not only see through manipulation, but also build a foundation of inner strength that no one can shake. Guilt is a common tool for manipulation. Stoicism teaches us to let it go. It's a heavy emotion, one that can linger long after the moment has passed, and manipulators know how to wield it effectively. They might say things like, "If you really cared, you'd do this," or "I can't believe you'd let me down like this." These statements aren't about truth, they're about control. They're designed to make you feel responsible for someone else's happiness or well-being, even when it's not your burden to carry. The Stoics saw guilt as an unnecessary weight, a self-imposed punishment that distracts us from living with clarity and purpose. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." In other words, guilt is often a product of our own judgments, not an objective truth. When we internalize someone else's expectations or demands, we create a cycle of self-doubt and obligation that keeps us trapped. Consider a family dynamic where guilt is used to control. Imagine a parent who says, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me," or a sibling who insists, "If you don't help me, I'll never forgive you." These statements are designed to trigger guilt, making you feel like you owe them something. But Stoicism invites us to step back and ask, is this guilt justified? Am I truly responsible for their feelings, or am I being manipulated into taking on a burden that isn't mine? By recognizing guilt as an external judgment, not a reflection of your worth, you can begin to free yourself from its grip. This doesn't mean ignoring your responsibilities or dismissing the feelings of others. It means understanding where your obligations truly lie and refusing to let guilt dictate your actions. Think about your own life for a moment. Are there areas where guilt influences your choices? Maybe it's a relationship where you feel pressured to say yes, or a situation where you're constantly trying to prove your worth. How might the Stoic approach help you see these dynamics differently? Stoicism doesn't ask us to become cold or indifferent. It encourages us to live with integrity and self-respect. By letting go of guilt, we reclaim our power to make decisions that align with our values, not someone else's expectations. The next time you feel that familiar pang of guilt, pause and ask yourself, is this mine to carry? The answer might just lighten your load. Stoicism teaches us the value of patience in a fast-paced world. In a society that often glorifies quick decisions and instant results, patience can feel like a forgotten virtue. But for the Stoics, patience wasn't just about waiting. It was about cultivating the clarity and self-control needed to make thoughtful, deliberate choices. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, because an artful life requires being prepared to meet and withstand sudden and unexpected attacks." In other words, life will throw challenges at us, and patience is the shield that helps us stay steady in the face of chaos. Manipulators thrive on impulsivity. They know that when we act quickly, we're more likely to overlook details, ignore red flags, and make decisions that serve their interests rather than our own. Think about a high-pressure sales tactic. "This deal ends today," or "If you don't act now, you'll miss out." These strategies are designed to push you into a decision before you've had time to think it through. But when you practice patience, you create a mental space to evaluate the situation. You can ask yourself, is this really a good deal? Do I need this, or am I being swayed by the fear of missing out? By slowing down, you take back control. Patience also helps us see through emotional manipulation. Imagine a friend who tries to guilt you into lending them money by saying, "If you don't help me now, I'll lose everything." In the heat of the moment, it's easy to feel obligated to act, but patience allows you to pause and assess the situation. Is this a genuine emergency, or are they exploiting your emotions? By taking the time to reflect, you can respond with wisdom rather than impulsiveness. Reflect on your own experiences. Has there been a time when patience helped you avoid a hasty decision? Maybe it was resisting the urge to respond to a provocative text, or taking a moment to think before agreeing to a commitment you later regretted. How did that patience change the outcome? Stoicism doesn't just teach us to endure life's challenges, it gives us the tools to navigate them with intention and clarity. By embracing patience, we not only protect ourselves from manipulation, but also build a foundation of inner strength that allows us to act from a place of wisdom, not pressure. The next time you feel rushed or pressured, take a deep breath, slow down, and ask yourself, what's the patient response here? The answer might just lead you to a better decision. Sometimes the most powerful response is silence. In a world where words are often used as weapons, silence can be a shield, a way to protect your peace and maintain control over your emotions. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw silence not as weakness, but as a form of strength, a way to avoid being drawn into the chaos of manipulation. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most practical teachers, put it this way: silence is a lesson learned from the sufferings of many. In other words, sometimes the wisest thing we can do is to step back, say nothing, and let the storm pass without us. Manipulators thrive on engagement. They want you to react, to argue, to defend yourself, because when you do, they gain the upper hand, but silence disrupts their game. It denies them the emotional reaction they're seeking, leaving them with nothing to work with. Think about a heated argument where someone is trying to provoke you. They might throw accusations, insults, or guilt trips your way, hoping to get a rise out of you. But if you respond with silence, you take away their power. Suddenly, their words hang in the air, unanswered and unacknowledged. Without your reaction, their manipulation loses its force. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're in a meeting and a colleague starts criticizing your work in front of everyone. They might say things like, "You always miss deadlines," or "This project would be better without your input." It's tempting to jump in and defend yourself, to explain why they're wrong or point out their own mistakes. But what if instead you stayed silent? By not engaging, you refuse to give their words weight. You show that their opinion doesn't control you, and you maintain your composure. Over time, this kind of restraint can even shift the dynamic, making it clear that you won't be drawn into their drama. Silence isn't just about avoiding conflict, it's about reclaiming your power. When you choose not to respond, you're not ignoring the situation, you're taking control of it. You're deciding that your peace of mind is more important than winning an argument or proving a point. This is Stoic wisdom in action, focusing on what's within your control, your response, and letting go of what's not, their words. Reflect on your own life for a moment. Have you ever been in a situation where silence might have been the better response? Maybe it was a heated conversation with a loved one, or a confrontation where you felt pressured to defend yourself. How might silence have changed the outcome? Stoicism teaches us that silence isn't passive, it's a deliberate choice, a way to protect your inner calm and stay true to your values. The next time you find yourself in a manipulative situation, consider the power of silence. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. Stoicism teaches us that virtue is our greatest shield. In a world where manipulation often preys on our weaknesses, living virtuously becomes a powerful defense. The Stoics believed that virtue embodied in qualities like wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline is the foundation of a good life. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound voices, wrote, "Virtue is nothing else than right reason." In other words, when we align our actions with these timeless principles, we not only live with integrity but also protect ourselves from those who seek to exploit us. Let's break this down. Imagine you're faced with a situation where someone is trying to pressure you into doing something unethical. Perhaps a boss asking you to falsify a report or a friend urging you to lie for them. If you're guided by the Stoic virtue of justice, you'll recognize that compromising your integrity isn't just wrong. It's a betrayal of your own values. By standing firm in your principles, you refuse to be swayed by their manipulation. You're not just saying no to them, you're saying yes to the person you aspire to be. Wisdom, another core Stoic virtue, plays a crucial role here. It helps us see through the tactics of manipulators, recognizing their intentions and understanding the consequences of our choices. Courage, meanwhile, gives us the strength to act on that wisdom, even when it's uncomfortable or risky. Together, these virtues form a kind of moral compass, guiding us toward decisions that honor our true selves rather than the agendas of others. Think about a time when your values helped you navigate a difficult situation. Maybe it was a moment when you chose honesty over convenience, or when you stood up for what you believed in, even when it wasn't the easy path. How did that decision shape your sense of self, and how might it have protected you from being manipulated? Stoicism doesn't just teach us to endure life's challenges, it gives us the tools to face them with dignity and strength. By living virtuously, we build a life that's not only resilient to manipulation but also deeply fulfilling. So the next time you're faced with a choice that tests your values, ask yourself, what would a virtuous person do? The answer might just lead you to a decision you can be proud of. Assumptions are the enemy of clarity. Stoicism teaches us to question them. When we assume, we fill in gaps with our own interpretations, often based on incomplete information or biases. These assumptions can cloud our judgment, leaving us vulnerable to manipulation. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that truth is the foundation of wisdom, and assumptions are its greatest obstacle. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." This reminder urges us to pause and examine our assumptions before they lead us astray. Think about how assumptions play out in everyday life. Imagine you receive a text from a friend that says, "We need to talk." Immediately, your mind races, "Did I do something wrong? Are they upset with me?" These assumptions can spiral into anxiety, even though the text might simply mean they want to share exciting news. By jumping to conclusions, we create unnecessary stress and open ourselves to manipulation. Someone who knows how easily we assume might use vague statements like this to provoke a reaction, knowing we'll fill in the blanks with our own fears or insecurities. The Stoic approach is to seek truth, not speculation. Instead of assuming, ask questions. If a colleague says, "You'll never believe what happened," don't let your mind wander into worst-case scenarios. Instead, respond with curiosity. What happened? By seeking clarity, you take control of the narrative and avoid being swayed by assumptions. Consider a situation where assumptions led to conflict. Maybe you assumed a family member was ignoring you because they didn't reply to a message, only to find out later they were dealing with an emergency. How might questioning your assumption have changed the way you felt or acted? Stoicism doesn't just teach us to endure life's challenges, it gives us the tools to see through the fog of assumptions and act with clarity. The next time you catch yourself making an assumption, pause and ask, is this based on facts or am I filling in the gaps? By questioning your assumptions, you not only protect yourself from manipulation, but also cultivate a deeper understanding of the world around you. So take a moment to reflect. What assumptions do you often make? How might they be shaping your decisions or relationships? The answers might just help you see the world and yourself more clearly. Stoicism teaches us the value of a supportive community. While much of this philosophy focuses on individual strength and self-reliance, it also recognizes the profound impact that the people around us have on our lives. The Stoics believed that the company we keep shapes our thoughts, actions, and even our character. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most practical teachers, put it this way: "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." In other words, the people we surround ourselves with can either strengthen our resolve or weaken our defenses against manipulation. This idea isn't just about avoiding toxic relationships, it's about actively seeking out those who inspire virtue and integrity. When we're surrounded by people who value honesty, wisdom, and self-discipline, we're more likely to embody those qualities ourselves. On the other hand, spending time with those who thrive on gossip, drama, or manipulation can erode our sense of self and leave us vulnerable to their influence. Consider this scenario. You have a friend who constantly complains about their life, blames others for their problems, and pressures you to take sides in conflicts. Over time, their negativity starts to weigh on you, and you find yourself feeling drained or even questioning your own values. This is the kind of relationship that can open the door to manipulation, as their toxic behavior begins to shape your perspective and decisions. The Stoic approach would be to evaluate this relationship honestly. Does this person uplift you, or do they bring you down? Are they helping you grow, or are they holding you back? By choosing to distance yourself from negative influences, you protect your peace of mind and create space for healthier, more supportive connections. Reflect on your own relationships for a moment. Are there people in your life who consistently bring out the best in you? Or do you find yourself feeling drained or pressured after spending time with certain individuals? The quality of your relationships can have a profound impact on your ability to recognize and resist manipulation. Stoicism doesn't ask us to cut people off without reason. It encourages us to be intentional about the company we keep. By surrounding ourselves with virtuous, supportive individuals, we not only strengthen our own character, but also build a community that helps us navigate life's challenges with clarity and confidence. So take a moment to consider who in your life truly uplifts you, and how might nurturing those relationships help you stay grounded in your values. The answers might just lead you to a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. Manipulators often prey on our need to control outcomes. It's a deeply human desire to shape the world around us, to ensure things go our way, to avoid uncertainty. But this very need can make us vulnerable. When someone recognizes how much we crave control, they can use it against us, dangling promises of certainty or threatening chaos to steer our actions. The Stoics, however, offer a different perspective. They teach us that true freedom comes not from controlling everything but from accepting what we cannot control. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound voices, put it this way: "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." What he meant is that our fear of losing control often creates more pain than the actual events we're trying to avoid. By clinging to the illusion of control, we set ourselves up for frustration and anxiety. The Stoic approach is to let go of this illusion and focus instead on what's truly within our power: our thoughts, our actions, and our responses. Consider a situation where a manager uses fear to manipulate their team. They might say, "If we don't hit this target, the company will fail and it'll be your fault." This tactic preys on the team's desire for control, their need to avoid failure and secure their jobs. But the Stoic response would be to recognize that the outcome isn't entirely within their control. What they can control is their effort, their focus, and their commitment to doing their best. By shifting their attention to what's within their power, they free themselves from the manager's manipulation. Think about your own life for a moment. Are there areas where you feel an intense need to control outcomes? Maybe it's a relationship where you're constantly trying to fix things, or a project where you're obsessing over every detail to avoid failure. How might the Stoic approach help you let go of that need and focus on what you can actually influence? Stoicism doesn't ask us to give up on our goals or stop caring about the results. It simply reminds us that clinging to control is a losing battle. By accepting what we can't change and focusing on what we can, we not only protect ourselves from manipulation but also find a deeper sense of peace. The next time you feel the weight of needing to control everything, pause and ask yourself, what's truly within my power? The answer might just set you free. Gratitude is a Stoic practice that shields us from manipulation. At its core, gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we already possess, creating a sense of contentment that makes us less susceptible to external pressures. The Stoics believed that by appreciating the present moment and the resources we have, we cultivate an inner resilience that no manipulator can easily shake. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This simple yet profound reminder encourages us to anchor ourselves in the present, rather than being swayed by the allure of what others have or what we think we need. Gratitude acts as a mental filter, helping us see through the tactics of those who try to exploit our desires or insecurities. For example, imagine a coworker who constantly flaunts their latest purchases or achievements, hoping to spark envy or competition. If you're grounded in gratitude, their behavior loses its power. Instead of feeling inadequate or pressured to keep up, you can appreciate what you already have: your skills, your relationships, your progress. This shift in perspective not only protects you from manipulation, but also fosters a sense of inner peace. Think about how gratitude might apply to social media, a space often designed to provoke comparison. Scrolling through endless posts of perfect vacations, flawless selfies, and career milestones can leave us feeling like we're falling behind. But when we practice gratitude, we can pause and remind ourselves of the good in our own lives, the small joys, the meaningful connections, the progress we've made. By focusing on what we have, we break free from the cycle of envy and dissatisfaction that manipulators often exploit. Consider a time when gratitude helped you navigate a challenging situation. Maybe it was during a period of financial stress when you found comfort in the support of loved ones, or a moment of self-doubt when you reminded yourself of your strengths and accomplishments. How did that sense of appreciation change the way you felt or acted? Stoicism doesn't just teach us to endure life's challenges, it gives us the tools to thrive by focusing on what truly matters. Gratitude is one of those tools, a way to ground ourselves in the present and protect our peace of mind. The next time you feel the pull of envy or the pressure to measure up, take a moment to reflect on what you're grateful for. That simple act might just be the shield you need to see through manipulation and stay true to yourself. Stoicism teaches us to see situations from multiple angles. This ability to shift our perspective isn't just about being open-minded, it's a powerful tool for recognizing manipulation. When we're stuck in a single viewpoint, we're more likely to fall for the tricks and tactics of those who want to control us. But by stepping back and looking at a situation from different angles, we can see the bigger picture and uncover the hidden motives behind someone's words or actions. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most practical thinkers, put it this way: "It's not what happens to you, but how you take it." In other words, our interpretation of events shapes our experience of them. If we can change how we see a situation, we can change how we respond to it. This is especially useful when dealing with manipulation. Manipulators often rely on us seeing things their way. They want us to focus on their version of the story, their framing of the problem, or their definition of success. But when we broaden our perspective, we break free from their narrative and see the truth for ourselves. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine a coworker who constantly complains about how overworked they are, hoping you'll step in and take on their tasks. If you only see the situation from their perspective, that they're overwhelmed and need help, you might feel obligated to pitch in. But if you shift your perspective, you might notice that they're not actually overworked. They're just disorganized or unwilling to set boundaries. By seeing the situation from this new angle, you can recognize the manipulation and respond in a way that protects your time and energy. Think about your own life for a moment. Are there situations where you feel pressured or misled because you're only seeing one side of the story? Maybe it's a friend who always plays the victim, or a family member who frames every request as an emergency. How might shifting your perspective help you see through their tactics and respond with clarity? Stoicism doesn't just teach us to endure life's challenges, it gives us the tools to see them clearly. By broadening our perspective, we not only protect ourselves from manipulation, but also cultivate a deeper understanding of the world around us. So the next time you feel stuck in a narrow viewpoint, take a step back and ask yourself, what am I missing here? The answer might just reveal a truth you hadn't seen before. Stoicism teaches us that courage is essential in facing manipulation. It's not just about physical bravery or grand gestures, it's about the quiet strength to stand firm in your values, even when it's uncomfortable or risky. The Stoics saw courage as one of the 4 cardinal virtues, a cornerstone of living a good life. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." This idea reminds us that courage isn't reserved for extraordinary moments. It's a daily practice, a way of showing up for ourselves and others with integrity and resolve. At its core, courage is about confronting what scares us, whether it's a difficult conversation, a boundary we need to set, or a truth we'd rather avoid. Manipulators often exploit our fears, using them to control our actions. They might threaten consequences, play on our insecurities, or create a sense of urgency to pressure us into compliance. But when we act with courage, we refuse to let fear dictate our choices. Instead, we face the situation head-on, grounded in our principles and unshaken by external pressures. Consider a scenario where a friend tries to guilt you into lending them money. They might say, "If you don't help me, I'll lose everything," or "I thought I could count on you." These statements are designed to trigger fear of losing the friendship, fear of being seen as selfish, fear of the consequences if you say no. But courage allows you to step back and assess the situation honestly. Is this request reasonable? Does it align with your values? By standing firm, even when it's uncomfortable, you protect your boundaries and refuse to be swayed by emotional manipulation. Think about your own life for a moment. Have there been times when you needed courage to resist manipulation? Maybe it was saying no to a demanding boss, standing up to a toxic relationship, or simply speaking your truth when it felt easier to stay silent. How did that courage shape the outcome, and how might it have changed the way you see yourself? Stoicism doesn't just teach us to endure life's challenges, it gives us the tools to face them with courage and clarity. By embracing this virtue, we not only protect ourselves from manipulation, but also build a life rooted in authenticity and strength. So the next time you feel the pull of fear or pressure, take a deep breath, summon your courage, and ask yourself, what's the brave choice here? The answer might just lead you to a decision you can be proud of. Stoicism teaches us that attachment makes us vulnerable. When we cling too tightly to people, outcomes, or possessions, we give others the power to influence us. The Stoics believed that true freedom comes from detachment, not in the sense of indifference, but in the ability to hold things lightly, without letting them control our emotions or decisions. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This idea reminds us that by letting go of what we can't control, we reclaim our inner peace and autonomy. Detachment isn't about abandoning what matters to us. It's about recognizing that our happiness doesn't depend on external things. When we're overly attached to a specific outcome, whether it's a promotion, a relationship, or even a material possession, we become easy targets for manipulation. Someone who knows how much we want something can use that desire to sway our actions, making us compromise our values or overextend ourselves. Consider a scenario where a salesperson exploits your attachment to a dream vacation. They might say, "This deal is only available today. If you don't book now, you'll miss out." The fear of losing something you've attached so much importance to can cloud your judgment, pushing you to make a hasty decision. But if you practice Stoic detachment, you can step back and ask yourself, is this truly the best choice for me, or am I being driven by fear of missing out? By letting go of the attachment, you regain clarity and make a decision that aligns with your values, not someone else's agenda. Think about your own life for a moment. Are there things you're holding onto too tightly, goals, relationships, or possessions, that might be making you vulnerable to manipulation? What would it feel like to loosen your grip, even just a little? Stoicism doesn't ask us to stop caring or pursuing what matters to us. It simply invites us to do so with open hands, free from the fear of loss or the need for control. By practicing detachment, we not only protect ourselves from manipulation, but also cultivate a deeper sense of inner freedom. The next time you feel the weight of attachment pulling you in, take a moment to pause and ask, what can I let go of to reclaim my peace? The answer might just set you free. Throughout this journey, we've explored how Stoic principles can serve as a powerful shield against manipulation. From emotional detachment to the clarity of reason and the grounding force of self-awareness, these timeless ideas offer us a way to navigate life's complexities with wisdom and strength. By understanding what's within our control and letting go of what isn't, we reclaim our power to act with intention rather than being swayed by external pressures. Emotional detachment, for instance, teaches us to observe our feelings without letting them dictate our actions. It's not about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about creating space to see situations clearly, free from the distortions of fear, guilt, or flattery. Rationality, another cornerstone of Stoicism, reminds us to let reason guide our decisions even when emotions run high, and self-awareness, it's the foundation of it all, helping us recognize our vulnerabilities so we can protect ourselves from those who might exploit them. These principles aren't just abstract ideas, they're practical tools for everyday life. Whether it's a coworker trying to guilt you into taking on extra work, a friend using flattery to win you over, or even the subtle pressures of social media, Stoicism gives us the clarity to see through manipulation and respond with integrity. As Epictetus once said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. This is the essence of Stoicism, the freedom to live on your own terms, unshaken by the opinions, demands, or tactics of others. It's a freedom that comes from within, rooted in the choices you make and the values you uphold. So, as we wrap up, I'll leave you with this question. How will you use Stoicism to guard against manipulation in your own life? Whether it's setting clearer boundaries, practicing gratitude, or simply pausing to reflect before reacting, the power to change lies in your hands. If this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How have you applied Stoic principles in your life? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if you found this helpful, consider subscribing for more insights on living with clarity and purpose. Together, let's build a community rooted in wisdom and resilience. Thanks for watching, and remember, the power to see clearly and act wisely is always within you.